Welcome back to Sanctuary Sunday School, and thank you so much for joining me. Today's subject is faith without works is dead. And, we've been talking about faith for the past month. So this week, we're moving from the Old Testament, the book of Daniel, to the New Testament in the book of James. So today's text can be found in the book of James in the second chapter, talking about faith. Faith without works is dead. And he opens this chapter with the question. And he simply asks, well, what does it profit you to have faith if you don't have works? Can you be saved by faith alone and no works? And this is such a powerful question to stop and to think about, because now, especially nowadays, we have so many people who proclaim to be believers, right? We believe in God. We believe in the power of God. We believe that Jesus is the Son of God and all of those things. Well, if we have that belief or that faith, then our actions and our works should align with our beliefs. And so he asked the question, so what profits you if you have faith and you have no works? Now, that question does not in any way discount the power of faith. Actually, it validates the power of faith, because it tells you if you really have faith and if you really have that power, you're going to work. The best illustration that I can share with you about how that works is a job, right? When you sign that contract or agree to go to work for that company, you go to that job every day. You're on time. You do your job, right? And you do what you're supposed to do because you believe that at the end of that pay period, that job is going to give you a check. So you go because you believe, you have faith that that company is going to pay you. I can't think of too many professions that pay you up front before you ever go to work. So it's the same thing with faith. If you truly have faith, if you truly believe God, if you truly trust God, you're going to do what you're supposed to do when you're supposed to do it. And I also use the example about having faith in God or loving God. You don't go up in heaven and say, God, I love you. God, you're wonderful. We don't do that. The way that we show faith in God is by the way that we treat each other. We should have enough faith in God to love each other and to be there for each other. So the next example he gives is about someone who is in need, who is possibly naked, or who needs food. So it's difficult or possibly impossible, right, for me to say that I have faith and I love God and I have no compassion for my brother. Even in the Bible, it says, how can I love God who I haven't seen, and I can't love my brother who is right there? My brother or my sister who's right there who's hungry. My brother or my sister who's right there who needs clothing, and I have it, and I can't help. My mom used to say to me all the time that if you encounter someone who needs your assistance and you can help them, you have to help them. You don't have a choice. You don't have a right to decide whether they deserve your help or not. That person was placed in your path for you to help them, and that you can never, ever go wrong by helping someone in need. That is an example of your faith. And he talks about James, he talks about faith, and he talks about action, and he talks about if someone were to say to me, can you show me faith without works? And I would say to you, I show you my faith by my works. You should be able to look at the works that I've done and see my faith. Anybody can say, I love God. I can stand here and I can teach this lesson and I can read this word all day long. But that is not really that's not proof of my faith. And when you have faith in God, real faith, you're willing to work. And I can even remember myself for the past 25, 30 years, I actually taught Sunday school at my church on the west side of Chicago. And I can remember that I would actually drive my car all over the west side, picking up people and dropping people off. And I would go to the store and buy donuts because sometimes the kids didn't eat breakfast before Sunday school. And back in those days, a lot of times I didn't even have money to last me for lunch for the week at work. And I barely had gas money for myself, but I did it because I had faith in God. And not only that, I worked midnight. So I went into work for the Chicago Police Department at 11:30 p.m. And then I got off work at 7:30 a.m., go home, do a quick change, and I was back at service at 9:30 a.m. for Sunday school. Then morning worship was at 11 a.m. And then I had to come back because my church has something called YPWW at 6 p.m. on Sunday night. And after that, it was evening worship. And then I went home, took a quick nap, and went back to work that same night. And I think back on those days, and the only way that I could say that I was able to do that is through my faith in God. And because even now in 2018, I still have the same goal that I had back then, and that is to spread the word of God and teach the word to anyone who wants to listen, because I know the power of faith and I know what God will do for you. And I want God to bless everybody, not just like He's blessed me. I want Him to bless you more than He's blessed me. I want to see people change their lives. I want people to go to new levels and do things they never even thought possible, because that's the kind of God I serve. That's what I believe God to be. That's who I believe God to be. And that's what I know that He can do. Those are things I feel like I had to share to qualify me to stand here and speak to a global audience today. And that's what we're talking about. Faith without works. You know, sometimes everybody wants to preach. Everybody wants to be behind a microphone. Everybody wants to be in front of the camera. But it's that background work. It's that stuff that nobody sees you do. It's going out there and giving and making sacrifices, your works. It's not enough to believe. And then James, he went on to say, he said, you know, even the demons and the devil believe. The devil has enough sense to recognize God. So to just say that you believe and to do nothing, you know, when I grew up, they would talk about bench members in church, where you just come and you just sit and you just do nothing. You know, you have the people, you have the couples, they look so nice and they match, and then the little kids are dressed up and you have this perfect little church family, and we go to church and we sit every Sunday morning. That there's nothing wrong with that, but James is telling us that's not enough. We need to be doing some work. We need to be about our Father's business. We got to get out there and we've got to believe God enough to go out there and spread His word, to be an example in the life that we live. Christianity and salvation, it spreads so far beyond the four walls of the church. I say it all the time. If you're saved, you should be the best employee. I don't have to go to my job and stand up on top of my desk and take a text and preach a sermon. I don't have to do that. I should live a lifestyle that when someone is going through or when they're struggling, they should be able to come to me and they should be able to say, Val, I need help. They should trust me. You know, sometimes we talk too much. People should be able to have confidence in us, right? And share things with us and know that we're going to, by the Spirit of God and by the power of God, help them and be genuinely concerned about them and not gossip about them. That's what faith is. And that's what faith does. And then James went on to reference Abraham. Abraham is nicknamed the father of the faithful, and he's also referred to as a friend of God. Abraham is one of the most amazing stories that I've ever seen as it relates to faith, because when God made this promise to Abraham, he made a threefold promise. He told him that he would be the father of many nations. He said that his seed would be so great until it would be numbered as the stars in the sky or the grains of sand. And he also told him that all of the nations of the world would be blessed through his seed. These promises, and Abraham just went and he followed God with blind faith, to the extent that he was even willing to sacrifice his own son. Now, Abraham's willingness to sacrifice Isaac for God, it doesn't condone any kind of human sacrifice. What it does is it sets the example that we should be completely committed. The definition of faith means believing, but not just believing, allegiance. It means loyalty to God. And Abraham would not let anything, including the life of his son Isaac, stand between him and his faith in God. And because he had that level of faith, God did not allow him to sacrifice his son. He told him to look, and Abraham saw the ram in the bush, and he offered the ram as a sacrifice unto God instead of the life of his son Isaac. And that is something that is so powerful, because if you are willing to give everything that you have to God, God will give you everything that you could ever desire. He will give you your heart's desire. If you delight yourself in the Lord, He will give you the desires of your heart. I am a living witness of that. I'm not telling you what I read, although I did read that, but I am telling you what I know, and I'm telling you what God has been for me in my life. And so we talk about Abraham and those promises that God made to Abraham, and Abraham did not live to see any of those promises coming to fruition. And that shows you how faithful he was. But he walked for God and he did what God told him to do. And he held on and he kept his faith, just like the promise was right there before his eyes. Abraham believed God and he trusted God. So he acted on the word of God, even though Abraham did not even live to see those promises. But as you know, God kept every promise that he made to Abraham, and the seed of Abraham is still blessed all around the world, wherever they are in the world. And then he went on to reference Rahab. And I love the reference of Rahab because sometimes as church people, we can be very self-righteous, right? And I'm saved, so I'm better than everybody else. I'm going to heaven and you're not. That is so not the way that God is. That is not the spirit of God. That is not a spirit of faith. Rahab was a harlot. And when they were coming into Jericho, now, even though God gave the land of Canaan to the Israelites when it was time for them to go in and possess the land, it wasn't uninhabited. They had to fight their way across that entire land. And if you look at a map of the land of Canaan, you will see Joshua and his men, they were doing some serious fighting all the way through that land. And Jericho was the last city that they had to conquer to possess the entire land. And so the word had gone out. They were saying, oh my goodness, Joshua and these Israelites and his God, they're just going through and they're just destroying everything and they're taking everything. So they was afraid. And get this, Rahab, she wasn't a missionary. She wasn't an evangelist. She wasn't a Sunday school teacher. She wasn't a preacher. She was a harlot. But she recognized the man of God and she recognized the power of God. And she had the faith to help them. She risked her life by hiding those spies in her house so that they would not be killed. And she allowed the spies to go back and give Joshua the report so that Joshua could come in and conquer the city of Jericho and possess that land. And when they came in, they saved Rahab. Rahab saved her entire house. And I love that story because even though, again, Rahab was a harlot, but she had qualities that every woman needs. It is time, we talk about the wailing women and the women that fast and pray. As women, just a sidebar here, we have the power to save our entire families. And there's so much in the news and we want to make women victims and downplay our power. That is not what God said. There are some powerful women in the Bible and Rahab is one of them. And even James referenced her when he talked about her faith. Sometimes when things are going wrong in your house, things are going wrong on your job, things are going wrong with your family, all it requires is the faith. It's a test, okay? And you have to have that faith with works. And faith without works is dead. It's like a dead body, right? A dead body, when a person dies, within those first few minutes after death leaves the body, they look exactly the same, okay? They look the same, hair is the same, skin is the same, all of that. But that body cannot do anything. The life has gone. That's how faith is. You can't really have faith. A body that is dead has no life, okay? So if you have faith with no works, you don't have faith. And that's the point that James is trying to get across in his lesson today. We want to believe God to the point that we act. We want to believe God to the point of salvation. For with the heart man believeth unto righteousness, and with the mouth confession is made unto salvation. If you believe unto righteousness with your heart, you're going to make a change. You are not going to say the same things. You're not going to do the same things. You're not going to go the same places. Your heart is not going to feel the same things because you are going to be filled with the power of God. Your belief, your faith in God makes a change in you, and it allows you to submit to the will of God. That's what faith is, even naturally so. Someone who you trust, someone who you have faith in. You have people that when they say they're going to do something, for me, I'm that person. There's certain people I always have a backup plan because I know they're going to be late. I know they might not show up. And I said, okay, she says she's going to be here or he said he's going to do this, but I need a backup plan because this person is not reliable. Then there's people in my life, and my father is this person for me. One time, I'm going to share this story briefly. We were in Chicago, and it was a terrible, terrible snowstorm. Nobody could get through, and my dad decided he was going to come pick us up, and I told him it was okay. We would take the train because it was so bad I didn't want him out there. And he said, no, I'm coming. And I told my daughter, I said, your grandfather said he's going to be here to pick us up at 10:30. I said, hurry up, move, get ready. I said, because I don't care how bad it is, your grandfather is going to be here at 10:30 on the dot. Sure enough, we're standing in the lobby in a hotel, and at about 10:20, I saw the front end of his car loop in front of the hotel to make a U-turn to come pick us up at the door. See, that's what faith is, and I had absolutely no doubt that my father was going to be there because I have faith in him and because that's the kind of man that he's been my entire life. So that's how we have to be about God. And I wasn't upstairs in my room. I wasn't in the cafeteria or restaurant eating breakfast. I was downstairs at the door, standing there watching for him because I knew that he would be there. That's how we have to be for God. We can't be someplace sitting around doing nothing. We need to be where God told us to be at the time that God told us to be there, doing what God told us to do, and then he'll pick us up and he'll carry us and he'll be right there for us. See, if it seems like God is not moving in your life, it's not God. It's us, because God is faithful. So if God is faithful, right, and then we're faithful and we're using our faith and we're acting on our faith, and our faith is not dead because we have works, how can we lose? And that's kind of the opposite, right, of the question that James asked in the beginning. He said, okay, well, if you have faith and you don't have any works, what profits you? That's the question he asked. I'm asking you the reverse question. If you have faith and works, how can you lose? It opens up the entire world to you. Everything that you desire is based upon your faith. Faith is without works is dead. So I am encouraging you today to hold on to your faith like never before and work like never before, and watch God move in your life. Watch God give you the desires of your heart. Believe God and let nothing, absolutely nothing, shake your faith.